The experiment itself, it was no secret. It was reported to over 3,400 journalists, educators, scientists, and engineers in more than 40 different countries. And the experiment simply goes like this. Scientists took a photon, a particle of light. This is the stuff that atoms are made of. They took a single photon. They wanted to create two identical photons, so they took the one and broke it into two separate photons so that each one would have identical properties. And those two photons, they isolated into a chamber. And from this chamber, they used fiber optic cables moving in opposite directions. And one cable went 7 miles to a town 7 miles away. The other cable went 7 miles to another town 7 miles away. From the place where these photons began, each of the photons was shot 7 miles in opposite directions. So when they reached their targets, they were 14 miles apart. And this is where the experiments actually began. Because what the scientists found was whatever they did to one of the photons in one location, in one moment in time, the other photon acted like it was having exactly the same experience at exactly the same moment in time. They used atomic clocks to tell them how long it took, how much time did it take for the information to move from one photon to the other. And this is where the problems began, because the atomic clock said the time was 0. There was no lag time. It was instantaneous. This breaks the rules of Einstein's theory of relativity. Relativity says that nothing can travel faster than the speed of light. For the two photons to have exactly the same experience at exactly the same time with no lag time means that somehow the information had to move from point A to point B instantaneously, faster than the speed of light. This is where the problems began. So the behavior of the photons is a problem for conventional physics. Those photons are defying the laws of conventional physics. However, they conform to the laws of relativity. And this is where the experiment becomes very relevant to everything that we're talking about when we talk about this matrix of energy. What the experiment tells us is that particles that are once joined physically remain linked energetically, even though they are physically separated from one another. Two photons were once a single photon. Even though they were split into two separate photons, energetically, they were connected. The term is called entanglement, quantum entanglement. And what it means is that whatever is happening to one of those photons in one place, whether it's 14 miles from the other one, on the other side of the planet, or on the other side of the universe, is irrelevant. They are entangled, and they will always reflect the exact same parameters in one that are happening to the other. Let me tell you why this is so powerful, why this is so important. If we think about the model of creation, if we think about our universe, scientists tell us that the universe began with a tremendous release, a primal release of energy that we call the Big Bang. In the Big Bang, energy was released and it began to expand, and physical matter began to expand and move away from the point of the release of the energy. If we could reverse the Big Bang, if we could take that physical matter and bring it all back to the point where it all began, what scientists tell us is at that moment, just after the release of energy, all the matter in the universe, as big as the universe appears, all that matter would fit into the space about the size of a single green pea. That all of the physical matter from all of the bodies, all of the planets, all of the stars, all of that physical matter, which is believed to take up only about 4% of the whole universe. Scientists tell us 96% of the matter is missing. 96% of our universe they believe is empty. So that 4% would be compacted into a single sphere about the size of a green pea, a really hot single sphere. They tell us about 18 billion million degrees. And when I talked to the scientists about that, I said, now how do you really know that? And they say, well, we don't. They say, but we know that it was really hot. So when all of that matter was compressed into that single green pea, here's the key. Everything was connected. Everything was connected. And even though the force of that primal release has allowed the universe to expand, and it's expanding today. And the physical matter is no longer physical connected. The experiment that we saw with the twin photons suggests that all physical matter is still connected, that we are still connected to one another. We're connected to our planet. We're connected to other stars and other planets. And this is the power of understanding what the matrix is all about. The key is that the matrix is not a byproduct that happened after the Big Bang. Now, let me say this again. The matrix that we're talking about, it's not something that happened after the primal release. The matrix is the release. The Big Bang is the matrix. It's emerging as itself into itself. Now, the implications of what I'm saying to you and what these experiments are showing are mind-boggling. We're going to explore them throughout this series. But I really want to emphasize that the field that connects all things, the web, the net, Planck's matrix, the divine matrix, this field, it is the release of energy itself.